Hello from the GovCIO Media and Research Defense IT Summit. I'm Ross John Fortuné, Senior Staff Writer, and I'm here with Matthew Willis, the Director of Army FUZE. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about the FUZE program and what it has done to move innovation and acquisition forward. So what specific changes has FUZE introduced to make sure that technologies are moving from prototype to capability?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I would say that certainly within the Department of War ecosystem, right, we're all tracking big changes across, acquisition reform, innovation reform. So the Army FUZE program is actually the Army's response to many of these innovation reforms as dictated by the Secretary of War. So what it represents in the Army, right, is $750 million a year of non-dilutive research and development dollars that we're injecting into the economy, really to identify state-of-the-art capabilities that will improve, the state of technology on the battlefield. And so it's not just, let's say, $750 million in non-dilutive R&D funding, right? There are multiple programs that previously exist that Army FUZE really brings together and also allows us to adopt a venture capital centric approach for our investments. So what does that mean? It means that we're willing to take more risk up front, make lots of small investments, scale the capabilities that are working, and divest the ones that aren't. So really driving to speed being of tantamount importance. Let's invest in companies, develop a minimum viable prototype, and get that prototype into the hands of our soldiers earlier so that they can iterate and companies can use that feedback to improve their product.
I know this has been a conversation that we've been having all day here and in general in the acquisition world now. Learning. Because you talked about iterating in those. Can you walk us through how you're learning from mistakes and the ways that you move that forward at FUZE specifically?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's critically important, right, that we aren't developing technology in a box, right, or in a silo, or
right.
in environments that aren't realistic. I mean, I was just in Southern California, very beautiful, and I'm sure, developing technology there is great, but you take something that was developed and tested, in Southern California, and you send it out to, let's say, Germany in the winter, or you send it to the Arctic, or you send it to the Pacific, right, the jungles of the Pacific. Technology is not going to really work there. And also, we need to be developing capabilities that operate in a way that our soldiers do their mission. And so we are really collapsing that ecosystem, right? So rather than developing technology, gold plating it, and then sending it out to the field to have it not really work, we are, developing 1 to 10 prototypes and then getting those into the hands of our soldiers more quickly so that they can do operational testing, that test data can be fed to companies, and then they can use it to improve product capability.
Yeah, I want to pick on that feedback loop, because how does that work? How are companies dealing with that, and how does FUZE specifically operationalize that?
So FUZE provides those opportunities to bring together tech companies and soldiers. So I'll say FUZE is essentially the capital engine behind the Army Pathway for Innovation and Technology, the PIT. So in addition to Army FUZE, PIT includes 4 deployed acquisition officers. We have acquisition officers in U.S. Army Europe, Africa, and U.S. Army Pacific, and also folks at the 18th Airborne Corps down in Fort Bragg and elsewhere. And so what do these folks provide? First off, they provide the demand signal to make sure that we're focusing our dollars on actual soldier problems. The other piece is they bring in those actual soldiers with, operational testing opportunities. So we can bring our technology performers to events that are managed or executed through these units so we can get this actual feedback. So basically, FUZE is an enabler, both from the dollars that fund the technology development and also facilitating engagement in these different exercises.
I want to pick on the idea of supply chain because it's something that has been on my mind. I imagine it's been on everybody's mind. So how do you balance that need to make sure the supply chain is nice and secure with this need to rapidly innovate and to field these capabilities from prototype to actual use cases?
I mean, that is certainly a challenge. So I'd say one of the other pieces within Army FUZE, right? I said it brings together multiple programs from really identifying new tech through developing prototypes to manufacturing technology, which can also include supply chain resiliency, investing in our organic industrial base, and identifying ways that we can onshore the production of many critical electronics or critical mineral capabilities and other things. So it certainly is this full spectrum of investments that we need to make, and there's certainly a balance.
Yeah, I imagine it's again, speed and security are always the push and pull on these kind of conversations. I want to hear success stories. Can you walk us through like a recent success story that FUZE has brought forward?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned before, I think that a common theme you've heard this week or we've heard recently is, speed is of tantamount importance. We need to prioritize speed over perfection. Stop admiring the problem and actually, make investments and move out. So an example of how Army FUZE is enabling speed is we ran a technology pitch competition a couple months ago at the Association of the United States Army annual meeting. It was in mid-October, during the government shutdown. We ran a tech pitch competition there where companies could come and sign up on site, right? We selected eight companies. Literally 20 days later, those 8 companies were integrated into the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center exercise in Hawaii. So again, 20 days from identifying a capability to getting them integrated into an exercise. And subsequently, within another 45 or 50 days, we've identified a handful of those capabilities that are now going towards scale. So it's really all about, again, not admiring the problem. And so that's essentially represents from, start to finish 75 days, identifying new tech, and then starting to bring it to a point where we're actually accelerating that fielding into the 25th Infantry Division.
Just Hawaii. For context, what does that timeline normally look like? A little bigger, I would say.
A little bigger,
Just
I'd
a
say.
tiny bit.
Yes, the Secretary of the Army has been explicit about saying, look, we need to stop measuring acquisition in terms of years and hundreds of millions of dollars, and decrease it to, let's say, months and a handful of millions of dollars. And again, this represents this rapid acceleration. We need to get ahead of the curve, especially because tech is changing all the time. And so if it takes 10 years to field a new capability, then what's the point?
I mean, you're 10 years too late at some point, right? I mean, that's always the concern, right? Is we talk about the speed of relevance. So we talk about the evolution of technology.
Absolutely.
It's just so fast that you can't lag behind. I'm curious, as far as looking ahead, what's critical for, for FUZE and on a grander scale, the Army to, scale quickly, affordably, and securely? What's important in the next 5 years, next 10 years?
I mean, I think we need to be deliberate about, again, adopting this culture of risk tolerance and make some big bets. We need to move away. I already said move it away from the admiring the problem. We also need to move away from, spreading the peanut butter as thin as possible. And need to identify some critical capabilities that we need to address and invest in these capabilities, certainly, at the expense of other missions that are less critical.
Yeah, that's certainly something that hopefully people will heed going forward. Yes. Thanks so much for doing this.